Camera's on, stopwatch is on, and hello and welcome to From the Garage. Whose garage? My garage here in upstate New York, the southern tier of New York State, where I live and reside on this September 8th, 2014. I am your host, Rich Roberts, and welcome to the show. If you're a return viewer, thank you. Welcome to the show. And this show is, how can I put it? It is a show no longer than 10 minutes. Me sitting in front of the camera, talk about, have a little conversation, discussion, and chat about a particular subject. In this case, today's show is going to be about radio and what it means to me and how I feel about it. And nothing really earth-shattering, but a subject nonetheless. And I figure I use the venue of my garage here. It's a space other than parking the cars. I don't really utilize that much, but figured it'd be fun to use as the venue for this particular show. So welcome to From the Garage. And before we get started, I want to say thank you to an individual that commented on last week's YouTube From the Garage, and that's AJ. He's over there on Twitter at ZottiePark, ZottiePark. And AJ is also over on that platform known as Mixcloud, where we get to play wannabe radio DJs. I have a weekly radio show that I do every Tuesday over on that platform, and I really have fun doing that. So that's why I'm going to be talking about radio today. And a few individuals that you could say influenced me on maybe doing that radio show, as well as doing this YouTube thing. It's pretty fun to do, and if anything, it builds up your confidence to be able to talk in front of individuals and see what you're capable of, I guess. So last week's show, I did have sort of a transmedia thing going where, along with recording it on my Kodak ZI-8, I recorded the audio for audioboo.fm. That's another platform that I am that's strictly audio, and some interesting analytics numbers concerning last week's show, the video versus the audio. The YouTube video had 12 viewers, 4 thumbs ups, which I'm greatly appreciative of, and a comment there from AJ, which I'm also greatly appreciative. The Audioboo version of that, the audio that was over there on audioboo.fm, had 32 listens. A little bit more of a community over there on audioboo.fm. And I have more, you could say a little bit more of a presence than I do here on YouTube. This YouTube channel that I have, it's just a wannabe YouTube channel, I guess you could say, because I know, and I'm being realistic, that any YouTube I make is only going to have probably a handful of views. I'm not going to get the 300 to 800 views right out of the block the first day, or so I'm a realist. If I get 1 or 2 views for these shows, I'm greatly appreciated above, as well as thankful, because it is fun. And that's how the aspect I look at doing my audio over there on Mixcloud, as well as audioboo.fm. If I get 1 or 2 listens, I'm happy with that, because that's the whole point, is sort of present yourself, and if there's people out there that want to listen to your content, they can listen to your content. So I thought those were interesting stats. The first show of From the Garage had something like 14 views from what I've seen this morning. But our subject matter is radio, and radio to me, I love radio. Radio is great. I grew up with radio. My very first transistor radio my grandfather gave me, and I remember listening to AM radio back in the day, and then when FM radio came along, and if you hear some noise in the background, that's the road that's out in front. There just goes a truck full of lumber there. It's the road leading in and out of the village that I live in here in upstate New York. But the transistor radio my grandfather gave me, I loved, and then it was shortly after that he ended up giving me this combination AM, FM, shortwave radio, and I remember spending up late nights listening to that. And to me, that was the very first piece of technology in my life that I really looking back on it, I didn't really appreciate it as much as I do now, because I look at radio and what it is today compared to back then. Yes, similarities, but the technology and the hardware that we have is a lot more advanced now. So, but radio in general for me was my very first piece of technology, other than the reel-to-reel tape recorder that my grandfather had that I used to sneak trying to play and listen to audio back then and stuff like that. But the radio that we have today, we can listen to it on the internet, which to me I'm fascinated with, because you can listen to radio stations anywhere in the world if they have a link to this thing called the internet. And there's two radio stations that I listen to, and for the most part here in the Southern Tier, and those two are, the one is The Choice, WAVR 102 FM in Sayre, Pennsylvania, which is right across the border here. I've been listening to them since I moved here in upstate New York I've lived here about 16, 17 years now, since I've been out of the United States Air Force, and they're very good local radio station. And then there's another one in the last few years I've listened to is 106.7 FM, that's out of Binghamton, the cool 106.FM, and they just recently here were the winners of the Reader's Choice Award for favorite local radio station, and I would have to agree, because I really enjoy listening to them. And primarily because there's some DJs on there that I used to listen to another radio station called The Whale, WAAL 99.1. I still listen to it. You know, I got them dialed in on my car radio, so I flip between those three and listen to them. They're really good radio stations, and they give a lot of good content, and that's just the strength that radio has. If you're still listening to radio, and I've been listening to all my life, that's why I love it. It is really a good platform format to consume their content over. There are two. Oh, what's that? That's the beer bottle back there. That's a Lek beer that I had. You know, you've heard of unboxings. Well, I had an unbottling of the Lek beer. It's a Polish beer. And I'll put the link to that audio boo. It's over there on my audio boo channel of that particular audio. And it's a Polish beer that tastes like a Heineken. It was very good, and I enjoyed it. And and that's the same as my T-shirt. Two Men in a Car, Rob Burney and Darren Reddick. There are two radio DJs. They used to have a podcast called Two Men in a Car. And Rob sent me this T-shirt as well as the air freshener, which are cherished possessions, I must say. I just thought it'd be pretty neat to sort of tie it in with today's From the Garage. But Rob and Darren are both radio DJs. I believe Darren is still DJing over there on Planet Rock Radio over there in London. And then there's this other radio DJ that I have great I admire very much and great pleasure in knowing. That's Bill Elder. He has a YouTube channel, Bill TV Macon, here on YouTube, and he has a lot of good radio stories from when he worked at the Big X down there in Macon, Georgia. And I just want to tell you all that a story is precious. It's like a jewel, and the stories that Bill tells about his radio days I really cherish, because some of the people he meet in the music industry, it's a big wow factor, and I am just very fortunate and glad that I do know Mr. Bill Elders here on this thing called the internet. And he also has a radio show over there in Mixcloud, and it's called Bill Elder Radio. Sorry, Bill. That I listen to every week, and it just ties in that the internet and radio are pretty unique. And I am at the end of my time limit here that I set for myself, and I'm glad that you all have listened to my ramblings, and I hope you're back here next week where I will be from the garage. You all take care. Live life. Have fun. Ciao for now. Peace.